Dynamite on 34th Street, their third night at the Hammerstein Ballroom. And we will go through the results, and then we will explain what all of it means in terms of the points and where everything lands. So we had 5 Continental Classic matches on this show, with Will Ospreay defeating Brody King. This has gotten rave reviews, this particular match. So that brings Ospreay to 9 points and Brody King to 6. Darby Allin and Ricochet went the full 20 minutes. So Ricochet finished with 10 points, while Darby Allin with 7. Commander got his one and only win in the Gold League, defeating Claudio Castagnoli. So Commander finished with 3, Claudio with 9. Kazuchika Okada defeated Shelton Benjamin. So Okada with 10, Benjamin with 6. Tony Storm over Taya Valkyrie. And then Kyle Fletcher moved up to 12 points, defeating Daniel Garcia, who finished with 7th. So that means in the Gold League, it was Will Ospreay and Ricochet moving on, with Ricochet number 1, Ospreay number 2, and in the Blue League, Fletcher number 1, Okada number 2. So what that means is for World's End on Saturday, it will be Kyle Fletcher versus Will Ospreay in a rematch from Full Gear, and then on the other bracket, Okada versus Ricochet, and then later that night, we will get the final. So many scenarios that you can garner from these 4. Way, hearing what the final 4 are you leaning towards one particular final that would make the most sense, that is basically going to get like a couple hours notice before you're going to get what could be a pretty gigantic match, if we're talking a potential Ospreay-Okada match, or you're getting another Ospreay-Ricochet match, or if Fletcher advances. All viable candidates, I guess, to win.
All viable, absolutely. So I know Fletcher, for maybe even myself, was like a front runner leading to all this. But I think seeing the other bracket, you're talking about essentially 3 out of the 4 being heels. And therefore, I think Will Ospreay probably has to go. We're also, talking probably likely 50-50 booking when it comes to Ospreay getting his win back over Kyle Fletcher. So I'm predicting Ospreay wins his block. And he will probably take on... Well, we just saw the Ricochet match, and I think Ricochet is like suddenly coming in with a lot of momentum, post this heel turn that has been the most talked about thing in AEW over the past week, okay? And we saw the results of it on Saturday. This crowd is responding, and I would certainly say in these few days, I would classify it as a successful heel turn. And I think the reaction in the Okada match will be interesting, to see who the crowd favors. I'm predicting Okada to play babyface in that one, because I think the crowd will boo Ricochet. But I also think it'll be Will Ospreay taking on the defending champion in Kazuchika Okada, because we've already seen the match with Ricochet and Ospreay. But if I'm going to pick Ospreay, I'm going to go with Ospreay Okada, with Ospreay winning.
I'm leaning towards Ospreay and Okada. That's, for a first time meeting in AEW, that's a really big match, I think, to not be able to promote in advance. But I guess you have enough.
But the G1 is like that.
The G1, you at least get like one night to sell that people can decide if they want to go and buy tickets to go see it the next day. For this one, I mean, listen, this is an audience that, I mean, you have to realize that's a potential. And listen, like any of these combinations, like, quality wise, it's going to be very, very strong.
It's a good Final Four. Yeah.
Yeah. I really don't. I'm sure there are those that would argue this is like for Ospreay, it's the idea he loses a third pay-per-view in a row. I really don't like that idea for Ospreay at this point, even if it's like he gets this big, gigantic run when he turns the corner on all of it. I see Ospreay in the final here. I don't know what the end is going to be, but if you are doing Ospreay and Okada, and this has been thrown out, this idea that before he does the January 5th show, that he will be doing an AEW appearance, like Kenny Omega at the end of that show confronting one of them. That's about as strong of an end to a show as you could get. And you could do it with either one, with Ospreay or Okada. It would be, I would think, leaning more towards Okada, who just feels like he's got nothing coming out of this, and Ospreay you can go in so many different ways with, but really you're not going to be...
You're leaning towards Okada winning.
If it is with that in mind, to lead towards Kenny Omega coming back, and you're going to get the first Omega Okada match in AEW sometime in the new year.
Interesting.
But you could also go with Ospreay too and do the same scenario. I would argue that if you're throwing Kenny Omega out of the mix, I said last week I'd like Ospreay winning this tournament. I think he needs something big. I think Will Ospreay has kind of, fiddled around enough as sort of this out of the championship picture participant that I wouldn't want to be playing that game too long with Ospreay. Like, I do feel this is who your audience sees as the top star in this company. And I think winning this tournament would do the most benefit for Ospreay into the new year.
Even though he's winning the Continental, he's not challenging for the World Championship after this.
Well, I think that if you do want to bypass and hold off on him going for the championship, this does give the prestige of this Continental Classic tournament and this belt. So that would be my thought. I don't think there's like a bad option here of where you go with, but if you're asking me this many days out, I could see the Ospreay Okada final.
Would you like it if Ricochet won the C2?
Sure. If it doesn't require him being emasculated on his celebration on the following Dynamite, that would be one way to go. I mean, they really did give you like a really shitty finish to Ospreay and Ricochet, but I feel that is one you could certainly run back at a later time. I don't see that as the option here.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I see Okada making it to the final just to make that transition of the championship that much clearer. So
I've really been into this tournament over the like, I would say like the last like week to 10 days and going into this, like, I think this is going to be a tremendous tournament by the end of it that we look back on it as. I think it's really hit its stride. I think Ospreay and Darby Allin was just out of this world, and they had another great show on Saturday. I don't doubt that, like, this sounds like a really great Dynamite for Wednesday, and I think and ultimately the tournament is going to be remembered for Saturday's matches on the pay-per-view, which I mean could all be stellar, all three of them.
If you like this video, consider joining our Patreon, the Post Wrestling Cafe. Multiple bonus podcasts every week, ad-free shows, and access to our full archive. Otherwise, a like and subscribe is much appreciated. Thank you for watching.